A long time ago, I was young, around age 10, maybe 8 or 9. I was young, and I was a tomboy. I absolutely hated dresses. It was just too prissy for me. It made my skin crawl. Anyway, so my aunt and my 2 sisters, the 4 of us, we went out one day. We went out walking, jumped in the car, and we started to drive. We were chatting, driving around, and there was a church that we passed by. We ended up pulling in and parking. Said, okay, we're ready to go. We got out. We were a little bit excited. The 4 of us walked up to the church. We went inside, doors opened, and the 4 of us walked in line. My aunt told my sisters, okay, go sit down. So the 2 of them started to sit down. I was ready to follow. My aunt said, oh, no, you're with me. I looked up at her, looked back at my sisters. I don't know. I wasn't sure about the situation. My aunt coaxed me on. I said, okay, it's fine. And then I saw a woman. She was laying in the front. It was kind of weird, something to think about. It made me feel like maybe she was dead. I didn't know. I looked around. My aunt said, it's fine, come on. I looked back at her, and it was kind of in slow motion. The woman was almost as if she was levitating. It seemed like possibly people were carrying her like pallbearers. I thought, what does this mean? Is this normal? But it was fine, so I just continued on walking with my aunt. So where did we sit? Up at the front, I guess. That was fine. We had our seats. And what were we doing? I looked around. I thought about some things. I thought, what's up over there? There's a wheelchair. There's a man in the wheelchair just kind of looking around, not really there all the way. I looked up at my aunt. My aunt looked down at me. It's fine, she warned me. So I looked back over. There was just not much happening. I didn't know what was up. So then the preacher began to talk into the microphone. It was all English. It just kind of went over my head. So I just sat there, swinging my legs, kicking against the pews. My aunt got my attention, asked me to stop. I looked at her. I was stubborn, so I kept going. My aunt stopped me again, and I just kept on kicking. I was so stubborn. So what did the preacher do? He continued talking, and he reached out a hand and grabbed onto somebody's face. I looked over. I was a little bit curious. The person in the wheelchair got grabbed first, and he fell back, and he was shaking, and his eyes were rolling. My eyes popped out of my head as I looked over at that. So what is that? The preacher just went down the line of people, touching people's heads as they shook around. I looked back at my sisters, and they were grinning so big. I looked at my aunt, and she just was talking, jabbering on. But I thought she was psychotic. This was crazy. And the pastor kept going down the line. And eventually he came to me, and he just started talking and reaching his hand out to me, and in slow motion that hand was coming at me. My eyes were widening, and the hand was coming at me, and I screamed and I punched him. And I punched him again and again, and I hit him, and I scratched him, and I clawed him, and I was getting at him, and my aunt, she didn't know what to do. She was frantic. She was reaching and grabbing, and there was 2 other men, and they came up, and they tried to pull me off the pastor, and there was bumping and twisting and punching and grabbing, and I was just hitting that pastor. My sisters were losing it laughing at me. They were laughing so hard, pointing at me. I looked around, and I was still just hitting. And I scratched and I clawed, and I was scared. I thought I was going to die. It was really bad. My aunt was extremely embarrassed. She grabbed the 3 of us up, and she marched out of that church. My sisters were laughing and pointing. They couldn't get enough of it. But my aunt, she was on a mission. She was getting out of there. She was hiding her embarrassment. As she walked us out, the four of us in a line, we jumped in the car. I was not happy about it. My sisters, still laughing, of course, just having a time. But my aunt was extremely frustrated. She was very mad. So we got home. Mom asked what happened. I was storming in. I was upset. My mom saw me. She looked at my aunt and asked, what is wrong? My aunt struggled to explain. The church hit the preacher and Dad tried to explain it. And my sisters were laughing, laughing, and laughing. So my mother looked down at them, back at my aunt. Sisters explained the story. My mom asked my aunt, why did you not explain that to Cassie? The hand on the forehead, just describe the situation altogether. My aunt was fumbling. She didn't know. My mom was furious. I was still upset, glaring at them. My mother was furious. She just got madder and madder as my sisters continued to laugh. My mother said, you should have warned her. You should have said something, explained it to her. And as my aunt was talking, my mom hit her in the face. And in slow motion, her lips just wiggled around as she continued to say whatever she was trying to explain. My sisters were laughing. I was glaring. My sister and my mother and my aunt, we were all just in this situation as my aunt was getting slapped by my mother, her face wiggling in slow motion as we watched.